Good morning. This is David Plazas, Community Conversation Editor of the News Press. It is June 13th, 2012. We have the privilege of having with us Senator Lizbeth Benacquisto, and we'll be talking about her re-election campaign. She's running in the general election, which is in November, but here's an opportunity to connect with constituents now to talk about why you're running for re-election and a little bit about your ideas for the legislative sessions to come. So good morning and welcome. And for the record, editorial board members, would you please introduce yourselves?
Martin, former board member, Cape Coral.
Good morning, I'm Luis Insignaris. I'm a citizen member from South Fort Myers.
I'm Dick Kalpis. I'm a citizen member from Cape Coral.
Excellent. We also have the privilege of having Senator Benacquisto's staff member, Matthew Hunter, who plays a very important role. Senator, tell us, why are you running for re-election?
Well, first, let me thank you for being here and as citizens being involved in the process and screening candidates and for lending your voice to the selection on behalf of the News Press for their endorsement. It means a lot to us to have you on board. And I'm Lizbeth Benacquisto and have just been in service in the legislature since November of 2010. And it's an incredible privilege to serve, and having just had such a short time, want to continue to serve on our constituents' behalf and accomplish what we hope are more good things on behalf of the residents of District 30 and the state overall.
And this is going to be, you're not going to have to do as much driving as you used to should you be re-elected.
No,
It's a compact district within Cape Coral all the way to Lehigh Acres, I think a little bit of South Lee County. Or I'm sorry, if you describe the district boundaries, that would be great.
Sure. We have everything north of Alico Road now, but we don't take in Lehigh Acres anymore.
Okay.
We do go to Cape Coral, and then we go through Burt Store up to Punta Gorda. So it is much more geographically compact, and if folks thought we worked hard in a district that spanned 5 counties, we'll have a lot more time to do good work on behalf of the 2 counties that we'll have the honor to serve if reelected.
What are you proudest of from your legislative service?
Gosh, I think first and foremost, I think I'm most proud of being accessible to constituents, and folks know that we're available, that they can come to us with their concerns, and as varied as those concerns are, we try to do our best from a legislative office perspective to help them connect with the services that they need and navigate that process when they need to connect with their state government. But then there are some legislative things that I'm really proud of. One certainly is the Andrew Widman Act, the state college president's evaluation, making those open and accessible to the public, and the bill that was signed here in Fort Myers just last week by the governor. There were 4 that were signed, but one of them was mine, and that was to make Florida a mandatory reporting state when it comes to folks who know about childhood sexual assault and abuse. And it is with great pride that I sponsored that legislation. And providing relocation assistance for victims of sexual assault for the first time is also something I'm incredibly proud of. But then when we get to the budget, and in a very tough year, making sure that we could craft a budget that balanced itself, which we're constitutionally obligated to do, but without raising any taxes or fees, and still yet meeting what we think are critical needs, and putting $1 billion back into our public education system was another proud moment. I could keep going.
Oh, sure.
I have this perception as a citizen that you have sort of had this, I'm going to call it a meteoric rise, if you will, among newly minted senators. It seems that you're definitely on the rise, certainly within the leadership, and you're being talked about for leadership within the Senate. And it seems, I wanted to know, is it, obviously you're very capable, but tell me what you think has caused this sudden rise, this meteoric rise I described before. Is it your work, or is it you toe the line with the leadership? Explain that to me if you could.
I think it really hinges on our hard work and our ethic of making sure that we are prepared, that I handled the committee chairmanships that I was given with respect and with great purpose. And I think that that speaks for itself, but I have stood out against leadership on certain votes because I didn't think that I could serve my constituents best if I just voted the way I was asked to at times. And so there are times when you end up voting because your principles tell you that you should with leadership, but there are times when you have to say, I can't.
Can you give me an example of a time when you voted against?
Sure. The insurance bill, Senate Bill 408 from last year.
The PIP situation?
No, sir.
Oh.
The bill from the 11th session,
Okay.
which I believed would allow for an unfair raising of insurance rates on our constituency, and that was a priority, but I voted no for it because I didn't feel like there were enough protections in place, and I just stood where I thought I should be, and that's but one example.
Did you suffer any repercussions because of that?
No, I think that when you are principled and you explain to your team members why you can't be with them on a certain issue, that this is one I just feel does not meet the needs of my constituents, and you're open and honest and upfront about it, I think that gains you a lot of respect because we have to be independent and we have to know that we can go home and look in the mirror and say we've done our best and we've stayed true to who we said we were going to be and who we are as people. But I'll just continue to be that way and work hard and take on the assignments that are given to me with the greatest respect for the body.
Have you had any discussions about any, for the next session, leadership roles actually?
No, sir. My focus right now is to get myself reelected and serve the constituency that I'm so fortunate to have the time to. But that'll be in the hands of President Gates. Actually, President-designate Gates.
Can't look too far ahead, you know.
No, sir.
I'm concerned about the growing voter apathy situation.
Mhm.
It seems like it's a kind of sickness that is going to, if it continues, destroy our democracy. How do you feel about that?
We want to engage everyone we possibly can to come out and vote.
My question really is, why do you think we're moving in the wrong direction?
You know, I can't speak for the general public, but I know that folks who've shared with us individually, sometimes they feel like they can't make a difference, or their vote doesn't count, or they'll just be one drop in the bucket of all the other folks who'll stand out and vote that day. And I share the story of my own personal life of getting elected to the city council the first time, and I won by 4 votes. And I share that with people because it really highlights how important one person is, or 2 people are, or 3 people are in the outcome of any race. And when you try to engage them, that one vote really does make a difference. And how if they don't have the time to go to a council meeting or a city commission meeting or travel to Tallahassee to speak with us, they can speak loudly with that vote that they have to offer. And we hope that achieves some goal, but it is really unfortunate the low turnout we get, but we'll do our part to engage the citizenry because we make thousands of phone calls asking people to come out and vote, and we knock on, again, thousands of doors asking folks to be there on election day, and we hope we do our little part to get folks out there.
It might be good for the legislature to develop some kind of a plan other than what's being done, which has been done for a long time, but has not been successful.
Right, I think the numbers continue to stay stagnant or decline, and we should do a better job.
Yes.
We should all do a better job.
Let's ask you about public health and Medicaid specifically. A few months ago at an event that Senator Bennett had held, his annual awards, which you and some other legislators were at, I had asked him about what plan Florida has to deal with either the repeal or the sustaining of the Patient and Affordable Care Act, and at the time he said there is no plan. Yet if it is sustained, Medicaid rolls in Florida are estimated to go from $3 million to $4.5 million.
Right.
It makes up already anywhere from 30 to 40% of your state budget. what kind of ideas do you have to address that? We know that people are going to be without care. We know the public hospital systems, at least here in Lee County, say that we have 30% uninsured, and we have at least 50 to 60% who are on some kind of government aid, whether it's Medicaid, Medicare, and then there's the underinsured.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a huge issue, but what kind of ideas do you have to contribute to dealing with public health costs and issues in this day?
You know, it is a staggering amount of money that we spend every year. And if Obamacare is not repealed, as you mentioned, 1.4 million people will be added to our rolls. We just can't financially sustain that. So it will be a question for the next legislature whether we will cut other services to allow for the funding of the folks who need that care, or to reassemble the system. And I think we'll do our best to not cut services in other areas, but to encourage wellness and to encourage folks taking care of themselves maybe a little bit more proactively so that they don't end up in the emergency room. And that's going to take a community effort. It will not be able to be done just by it.
Maybe more than that.
Yes.
Governor Romney has talked about the fact that the reason his plan worked in Massachusetts is because it's a state program. Do you envision some kind of individual mandate in Florida or some kind of health care plan just for Florida if Obamacare is repealed?
In this current, if I can just follow up on the question, is this legislature, I don't know if independent is the word, is the right word, but does this legislature have what it takes to address what David's asking?
I think the pressing concern for us is what to do if the courts do not rule in what we believe is our favor, and how to meet the needs of those additional folks on the Medicaid roll and balance what we have to provide with other critical public safety and education needs. If it is repealed, I think then you have the opportunity to have a dialogue to see how you can best address the system overall. But I think that is a coming together of the stakeholders, which are diverse and varied, but I don't think the legislature can solve that problem on its own again. I don't think you'll see a move to immediately have its own independent look at a new healthcare system. I think you'll see a coming together of stakeholders to try to determine the best course forward.
And that's really the core. Is there the political will to do something? Because if for nothing else, in my opinion, Obamacare, repealed or not repealed, has opened the dialogue about the problems that inevitably exist, and they're very big. But if it is repealed, is there the political will to do something about the issues that we know exist?
There is. I think if you look back into our very recent history, President Herodopoulos had a Medicaid reform tour that he had a bus that went all over the state and met with stakeholders, physicians, hospitals, caregivers in the community to try and figure out a way to, in addition to what was being contemplated on the federal level, address those very unique concerns to Florida. And there were reforms instituted in the 2011 session, and we're looking to see how those are working. Are we achieving the goals that we've set in place, and are they the right course forward? So I think the state has taken, the legislature has taken a very proactive approach to trying to address those. We wouldn't have had those Medicaid reforms, but you'll have a much bigger issue to deal with. But the state does have the political will. These are our constituents that we serve together, and we want to be sure that we've got a system that is viable and lets all folks do what they need to do, but isn't a mandate.
Before we end the video portion of this, is there any final words you want for the constituents on YouTube?
We just thank our constituents for the absolute honor to serve on their behalf, and I look forward to having a little bit more time to do some good things in Tallahassee for Southwest Florida.
Just a one, if I could just slip